Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bergen Stages Television, our entertainment magazine here at Bergen Community College. I'm Jim Bumgardner, your host. Thank you for coming today. Today's a special event. We are taking our spotlight and shining it on our neighbors to the south in Nutley, the NutleyLilTheatre. And my guest today is Dixon Lane, coming from the NutleyLilTheatre. Dixon is on the board of directors. He also directs shows there, and I think you teach some of the classes as well.
And I act as well.
Great. And you act as well. So welcome,
and I build
Dixon.
most of the scenery.
I noticed that too. I had the privilege of coming to the theater a couple of times, and you do such wonderful things in such a small little space.
Thank you.
So before we get into some of the nitty-gritties of the show we want to talk about, can you tell us about a little history of the NutleyLilTheatre?
I think we're in our 80th year. It started in 1934.
That's got to be one of the oldest in the country. I mean,
I don't know about the oldest in the country, but it's certainly one of the oldest in the state.
Sure.
And it really is a postage stamp of a theater. I mean, it only has 48 seats, which then means that it requires an extraordinary amount of creativity.
Great. Now, how did you, had you always been, because you're in this wonderful little red barn. I don't know where that barn came from because it's in the middle of, in Erie Lane?
Erie Place.
Erie Place. So it's right there, and you just go, why is this cute little red barn in the middle of that?
Well, it used to be, believe it or not, farmland. And the houses built up around it. And this thing was the last one there, and then Nutley bought the barn, so they actually own it. So.
And so they've always been in that space?
They were in a church for like a year and a half, and then they moved to the barn.
What a great place to be in.
Oh, I've been involved with a lot of different community theaters, and I have to say that the Nutley space and the Nutley people are show in and show out one of the better theaters in terms of the caliber of the talent, in terms of initiative and trying to do things outside what other people are trying to do.
Right. And just to be clear, community theater seems like the backbone of our country. I mean, this is a training ground for so many young actors and for designers and all that. For our audience, can you just kind of give a little explanation of what do we mean by community theater?
Community theater is all volunteer, so everybody's got a full-time job, and this would be, initially, I guess it would be for our own diversion, and then because we want to share this with other people, putting that in front of people. Most of community theaters are member organizations, so the member dollars help pay for the maintenance on the space, help pay for the royalties on the plays and that kind of thing. The ticket prices are extraordinarily low. They're very comparable to what they have here at Bergen Stages. The endeavor is to try to be community and to share community and to have that community be something that's hopefully going to change people or move people.
And a lot of these people, they just love the craft and they just want to do it. And it's amazing because the hours and the months spent on putting up a show and mounting a show, and that they can leave from work and then do this in the evenings and weekends, spend their evenings and weekends to do it. It just shows such a love of theater and what they do, and that's what's so remarkable to me about community theater.
I agree.
And so this theater came around about 80 years ago, and now you have a board of directors that kind of heads it. Is there an artistic director of the company, or is it just the board tends to?
Each play is kind of a standalone play. So the director of the play is, for all intents and purposes, the artistic director of the play. There is a technical person who kind of heads up things like making sure that the productions all have what support they need. Most of the board members focus on a particular aspect of the theater. So I'm responsible for the buildings and grounds, and other people are responsible for things like hospitality, so making sure that there's refreshments and stuff for people.
Good.
And then there's a whole committee that chooses what plays are done every year. So directors will submit a list of plays they would like to do, and then the committee sits down and figures out what would make a good season.
And these are directors who have always directed there, or do they bring in new directors from time to time?
Well,
how does that work?
Everybody who directs at Nutley has to be a member of Nutley.
So they pull from their membership.
And generally what happens is if a director wants to be involved, they'll do a workshop production. So there'll be a general meeting, and they'll do like a one act so that people can see their work.
So they'll direct it, bring friends in and block it, and kind of, and so it's kind of an audition.
Exactly, that's exactly what it is.
Good. Okay.
And then based on that audition, they can then submit plays the following season for what they would like to do. But
and then the committee decides on
Right.
them and of the play. So
Correct.
they go hand in hand on what they want to do. And
in most cases, the plays come from the directors. They say, these are the plays I'd like to do, and then the committee figures out what would be the most appropriate.
And how many do you do in a season?
5.
5 shows, that's a lot. I mean, for community, you know that you're going to spend a couple of months mounting a show, so you
Right.
know that all this time is spent in...
And we're expanding out too, because we do classes. We do a lot of...
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. I know that, yeah, you do your theater stuff, and we'll get a little bit more into that because we're going to talk about the special production you've just mounted. But you do classes, and,
Right.
and what is that all about? How,
Well, we have an acting class that's usually once a term. We have improv classes. We have workshops in things like how to do makeup and how to do lighting.
and these are all ages, or do you do age-appropriate
We have done absolutely age-appropriate classes. There was an initiative to do classes for kids, high school and middle school kids, which included improvisation and other kinds of acting techniques.
Cool. And so these kids will, let's say these high school students will take the class. Is it just a class, or does it culminate in a performance as well, or is it just focusing on the craft?
Well, because most of the young people who are involved in this are involved in the school, then it transfers into something that the school is doing. Nutley has not been engaged in directing as an organization things being done outside the theater.
Right, right.
That being said, once Nutley becomes better known and people realize the caliber of talent and the kinds of things, I think that kind of opportunity would arise.
But right now, you don't. The class, the goal of the class, when it ends, it doesn't culminate in a performance at the end of the class. It's just kind of this an ongoing craft.
Well, hopefully it breeds new actors and young actors, and
that you can use for the talent that you use in your show. And do you use the theater itself for the classes, or do you have another location?
We use the theater at the school. We use the theater, and we also have a relationship with a church nearby, which has lots of rooms, and we'll have classes there as well.
Oh, good. And you draw from all over?
Yes.
The county?
Not only the county, it's all over.
Oh, nice.
We've got people coming in from Westchester County,
Perfect.
all the way down to Tom's River.
Oh, that's
I mean, the thought of commuting 2 hours each way just to come to do a play every night is kind of like, whoa.
But in these classes also, you don't just do acting. Like you said, you do stage makeup, which a lot of these companies don't even focus on anything else but acting, really.
Right.
Acting is and I think you get into prop building to understand how to make props.
Yes.
And so it just finds another direction for a student that's interested in theater, and they don't find themselves as they want to even be acting. It just kind of, you open up a door, a world that I don't think they know even existed.
Oh, and we're always eager to have students come in, and so we need lighting people, we need technical people, and we've got some amazingly talented people with us. I mean, the guy who heads up the prop department at the Metropolitan Opera is one of our guys.
Oh, nice.
And
great connection to have.
oh, totally. And I was a professional carpenter, stage carpenter and prop maker for a while. So, and there's just a huge depth of experience and talent. So when we get the young people in, it's sort of like, okay, put the electronic bracelet on your ankle, don't let you go.
We need you. Yeah. So as I think you talked about that you need the community to help support the theater there. Do you do fundraising, or is it all for ticket sales? And I remember that you have a piggy bank as you leave or during intermission, or as you leave the theater, that you can put a little bit more support into the theater, which is a great idea. Do you do other fundraising for the theater?
Not per se. We do find that there are capital campaigns that need to get done, and we will generate a fundraising campaign for things like insulating the theater.
So as it comes up, you'll just suddenly do that sort of thing, but it's not this ongoing needing to have a gala benefit to...
Not really, because we own the theater. Oh. So it's not like we're having
that is great.
Oh, it's huge.
It's so unusual to hear a community theater own it, so that it's yours and you can do with it as you please.
Right.
And again, I think it's fascinating that everything from the box office person to I think there was a woman shoveling snow when I came to one of the performances. All these people are volunteering. They're just doing it because they love this theater. And it fills up.
Oh, yes.
Which is great. I know it's only 48 seats, but it's still, you know, you need to get an audience in there, and they got to, you know where the theater is to get there. And I think you've met this challenge. It's very difficult to do.
Well, and the part that's interesting is so many people who discover Nutley Little Theater for the first time come back, and they may not even know the play, but they know the caliber of what's being done.
And the caliber is great. I mean, a couple of things that I've seen are just tremendous. So I think just to push it to our audience to say this is, you need to see some shows there, and you won't be disappointed. And just because you don't know the name of the show, go try it. It's just.
And most of the shows that we do have a pedigree. I mean, they were either on Broadway, or they were top of the mind conversations, or they were something unique, such as The Children of the Lost God was totally unique.
Yeah, totally. And we'll get into that in a minute. The production that you had just staged that is coming to Bergen this summer, we'll talk a little bit more specifically about Children of the Lesser God. But before we go there, just how does it, I say I want to act in your show, how do I find out about what you guys do?
Well, we have a website, NutleyLilTheatre, .com. It has audition dates, it has performance dates, it has information about other things that we are doing. We have a
Facebook page?
Yes, we do.
Great. So if you like the page, then somehow liking that Facebook page will, any announcements will pop up on your Facebook page too.
And any of the shows, each one of the shows has its own Facebook page.
And are you a member to act, or do you not have to be a member?
No, you don't have to be a member.
Anybody can come and audition.
Participate
for
for anything. The only ones that really need to be members are the directors.
Okay. Okay. Good.
And it's sort of that we wanted to make sure that one, we knew the caliber of what the directors were doing. Two, we wanted to make sure that given the level of responsibility that a director has, we wanted to make sure that it would fit into everybody.
And it shows their commitment. You know,
exactly.
By doing,
Exactly.
that we will do this. I've been with you for the longevity. I've been with you for a year and a half, and that shows you that.
Right.
I'm very interested in what you do there. So, so I'm going to audition for you. Do you normally have a good turnout for these auditions?
It really depends on the play. I mean, the plays that they tend to put onto the calendar, the plays that they know that there's people for.
Yeah.
So it tends to be late 30s and upwards. But a lot of times, when we're doing something that people know, and it's full.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you don't do musicals, that's right.
Yes, we do.
Oh, do you?
Yes, we
do.
do.
In that small space?
Yes, we usually do like maybe one every other year.
I am amazed. I'm amazed what you can get done in this space, and the fact that you can even do a musical is great. And I think that's part of the charm of this theater, to come to Nutley Little Theater and just go, look what they've done, and the caliber is so great, the talent is wonderful, the direction, everything put together, you just go, wow, it's something special. Even just walking up the steps into the theater itself, you just feel like, this is going to be a special night. And that's what I think you've got a great thing at the,
thank you.
There. Yeah, yeah.
And we do weirdness things. I mean, we did Cyrano, and that had 22 people
Huge
on that little
cast.
postage stamp set, and things were flying in from the ceiling, and sword fights and everything. It was like people just kind of go.
The audience almost has to duck from a sword fight, I bet, because they are so close.
It's true. And some of the musicals, we have to find creative places to put the band.
That's great. So I just want to get into now where you just headed was with a production of Children of a Lesser God, which I saw was a fantastic performance. So we're going to take a little short break, and then we're going to spend the second half just kind of talking about that production, why you chose this production, and what it took to get it mounted, and then what we're going to do to bring it here to Bergen Community College. So, so we're going to take a very short break and come back to Dixon Lane, who directed Children of a Lesser God, and we will talk about that production that they had just done at Nutley Little Theater. Come right back.
You may not know what to say, but we can help start the conversation. Learn more at supportyourvet.org.
From intimate black box performances in the Ender Hall Lab Theater to full-scale musical productions in the Anna Maria Saccone Theater, come to Bergen Community College at 400 Paramus Road in Paramus, New Jersey. For tickets or more information, call the box office at 201-447-7428 or visit us at tickets.bergen.edu. We'll be seeing you on Bergen Stages.
Welcome back to Bergen Stages Television, and today we have a special guest, Dixon Lane, and we've been talking about the Nutley Little Theatre, of which he's a board of directors and directs and builds sets and teaches classes at the Nutley Little Theatre. Dixon, you have just done a terrific production of Children of Lesser God.
Thank you.
Can you tell our audiences a little bit about that play and why you chose it and why you wanted to do this one at Nutley Little Theatre?
Children of a Lesser God is just a beautiful play to begin with. It's one of the very few plays that every time I read it, it just kind of goes, oh, man, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. It was originally on Broadway in the early 80s. Phyllis Fralick got a Tony for it. John Rubinstein got a Tony for it. Mark Madoff, the whole thing. The whole And it deals with bridging the deaf and hearing worlds. A hearing speech therapist is hired by a deaf academy to teach lip reading to the students, and he falls in love with a former student who's so antisocial that she's basically a maid in the dorms because she can't be out in public, really, because she's so angry at the world and stuff. And about midway through the play, one of the students files a class action suit against the school because there's no deaf instructors. And the leading lady then becomes the voice, as it were, of this lawsuit. And one of the subplots is she gets really upset because nobody's letting her speak for herself. They want to interpret her in every single possible way. So you've got that happening, but this beautiful look at relationships in terms of how can I be a we until I'm a me? And how can I trust you in my secret space? Because it's like you're kind of rough and raw, and I'm not sure my secret space can handle that kind of thing. And it just resonates with people across the board.
And he's pretty insistent on having her be able to lip read.
Well, it's also an academy thing. That it's a fascinating thing about deaf culture, and I did take ASL classes here at Bergen. Within the deaf world, Alexander Graham Bell has been a huge force in what's called the oral tradition, thinking that sign language per se is bad, is that it shows that they're ignorant, it isolates them from the world. So most of the educational processes means that you are learning to lip read and you are learning to speak in some form or another in order to survive. So that current is huge in this play. Now, we did it a very different way. Normally, the leading man signs, speaks, and acts all at the same time.
Correct.
So
a different kind of triple threat, but a triple threat.
Totally, and it just, to me, I can't imagine how difficult that is. So let's say you were the leading lady. You signed to me with emotion.
Right.
I interpret that back
for the audience
with emotion. Now I've got to project my emotion back to you. So it starts, and then let's say you tell me a joke. I interpret the joke, and then the audience gets it whenever they get it.
Right.
So it could be they're laughing in the middle of a very poignant moment, and it's like that delay has bothered me a lot.
That's interesting, yeah. So like the hearing impaired audience have to wait till the sign gets done to be able to know that joke happened, or if the joke happened while they were signing, they're already,
and the hearing audience misses a lot of the beautiful signed conversations that are taking place simultaneously.
And that's part of that let me speak for myself idea. Is like you're not getting across what my emotion that I'm feeling because you're interpreting my sign as opposed to let me. And that's just what a lesson.
Oh, it's been probably the most satisfying, all-consuming project I've ever done in my life.
Now there's a cast of 7 and 2 interpreters, or is that?
It's 5 with 2 interpreters.
5 and 2 interpreters.
Well, actually 3 interpreters that rotate into 2 spots.
Oh, okay. And so the audience, whether you're hearing impaired or you're a hearing audience, gets the full story.
Oh, totally. And they get it in real time. So it means then, in the play, it identifies that James, the leading man, was in the Peace Corps for 3 years, and his sign is rusty. Well, he wouldn't be signing fluently at the start of the play. And I speak for myself.
So you need these interpreters to do it for
But
them.
it also gives us the opportunity for him to be able to play the fact that my hands aren't doing what they want to do.
He cramps up, if I remember right.
Yeah.
He cramps up at one point, so my hands are.
And it's like you know, in the beginning, Sarah says, "You got to speed up. The hour will be over before you can sign it." Then, if in a real world situation, when they do get married in the play,
right,
and they would not be speaking at home, but it does give us the opportunity for him to be able to voice things out of frustration, my hands don't work, or I don't know what that sign is, kind of thing.
And then it gets into a beautiful moment when he misses music.
Yes.
He feels like he can't put music on because she can't hear it,
Yes.
so why is he enjoying something that she can't? And yet she says, but I feel the beat, or I feel your movement, or all that kind of stuff. So it's a really intimate moment between this married couple, which I think is very significant, that we don't think, do I not share this, or do I not enjoy it because you can't enjoy it, or can I enjoy it? And she very insistent said, that's your music, enjoy it.
Yes. And there's so many things about this play. I mean, it's a memory play. So the entire play is told from his mind.
And we have Andrew Gluskin
Yes.
playing the lead, which Andrew did it here at Bergen Community College. We had done the production about 10 years ago, and Andrew Gluskin, terrific actor, graduated from here, but before he did this production of Children of a Lesser God. And it's great that now, 10 years later, he's able to reprise the role.
And it's the playwright is very specific, and it's one of the reasons why casting this is so difficult.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because the leading man has to be an interpreter, an ASL interpreter. The leading lady has to have been deaf from birth. And one of the reasons for that is, at one of the climactic moments in the play, she has to speak. And it just sounds so horrible. And if it's anybody who has ever heard human speech before, they do it very differently. And then you've got two hard of hearing students involved.
And they have to, according to the playwright, they have to be hearing impaired as well?
Yes.
They do those two roles too?
Yes.
That's Oren and
Lydia.
Lydia, yeah.
And one of the interesting things about this is that the deaf audience knows immediately, within about 5 seconds, if the people are what they say they are.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest complaints about many of the productions is the leading lady is not deaf enough. Maybe she's hard of hearing, but she's not deaf enough to play the part, and people just get very upset with that.
Wow.
So I was just extraordinarily fortunate to find an exquisite cast. I mean, Andrew was amazing. The leading lady, Michelle Beninati, has never been in a play before, but her instincts are unbelievable.
Absolutely, she's terrific.
And I really think that we have another Marlee Matlin.
Oh, wow. Yeah, she really was. She gave it her all. She was there. She was so present.
And it's just, and the two students, one of whom, Stephanie Arias,
Goes to Bergen.
It brought beautiful, beautiful colors to the play.
Absolutely. So it's really interesting. That's why this play doesn't get done a lot, is because of what the playwright has made so specifically about the casting. But I think it's fortunate to see it. So I think that when a production comes along, see it, because it's not going to come around again. It was a great movie, but it's great to see it live because you're there, like you said, in real time.
And the movie is a very, very different story.
It is.
And the movie, I feel, is a hearing person's view of the deaf world. And at every single opportunity, they skipped over anything that might be delving into this bridging of the deaf and hearing worlds.
What was the point of the whole play? Was to talk
right.
about that.
And the movie is just about the relationship. And it's unfortunate because the relationship colored by this bicultural divide is huge. And at one level, I feel that the play, although it's an incredible visceral metaphor about the deaf and hearing world, it's also about bridging cultures. So this play could just as easily be an Israeli woman and a Palestinian man on the West Bank, or a Zulu woman and a Afrikaner man in Soweto.
The theme is so resonant.
It's just like, so how do you have cultures with expectations? And that's, to take that away just robs an incredible depth.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So, and then there's also that interesting character. Well, her mother is an interesting character, but also, is he the dean or the
principal
of the school? Who he says an interesting thing when the students want to have actual deaf teachers there. He said, "Where does it stop? It's like it's going to keep going on."
Right.
You know, that's the. Do you? So I guess my question to you then: do you find this play bringing hope by the time we get to the last part of it?
That's actually a really interesting question because the playwright leaves it up in the air. In the play, once they're married, through one thing and another, they split. And you never know if they're coming back together again.
Right.
I think that the play does present the opportunity for a bridging and a conversation for bringing people together. Now, whether James and Sarah come back together again, I think the audience should decide for themselves.
But it does. It's powerful enough to make the audience think about this theme, which, as you say, can resonate in so many different worlds, but it just makes you think about, oh my gosh, why am I not learning to sign? Why am I so selfish thinking they need to lip read? Or why am I bringing a pad to write down what I have to ask as opposed to be able to actually sign?
And really, the English language is only about 30% lip readable. And then when you deal with dialects and the way that people pronounce out of different sides of their mouth and things like that, lip reading is a very difficult thing to do.
And if you're coming in out of context, it's like, I needed a hint at what you're talking about. So it's a powerful piece, and I feel so fortunate to say that we're bringing it here to Bergen.
I'm so excited
So
about
we are transferring the production that was at NutleyLilTheatre, and then we're going to be bringing it to Bergen Community College. Bergen Stages will be producing it in June. I think it's June 11th through the 14th.
Yes.
We'll be doing it in our Indoor Hall Lab Theater, which is a little bit bigger than the NutleyLilTheatre, so you have
about double.
a little more space to spread out in. So we hope that the audience will make plans to see it. Publicity will go out, and they'll know all that kind of stuff. So what do you think about this transference? Do you think it's...
I am so excited.
We've never done this, NutleyLilTheatre. It's a great relationship that we have with you guys.
And to me, the synergy of the Bergen Stages, Nutley-LilTheatre, is just, it's wonderful.
And our ASL program.
Yes.
So we have an ASL program
totally.
which gives the students an opportunity, and for our hearing impaired community that's here at the college, to be able to go see a show that we don't have to wait for a special show that has one performance that has it interpreted. This one's interpreted, so they can come to the entire run of the show and enjoy a story that's about them. It's about their community, and finally their voices are heard.
And the interpreters are actually part of the professional ASL interpreting program at Union County College. And for the students here who are in the ASL program and in the ASL club and stuff, this is an amazing opportunity. And the UCC program is probably one of the top 4 in the country. And when you see the play, this is a unique experience. Nobody in my awareness has ever done a bilingual production, simultaneous speech to sign and sign to speech. And the fact
so
that
you get it all.
Totally.
You're always, whether you're in the speaking world or the hearing world or the non-hearing world, the fact is you're going to get every bit of this play.
Right. But it's also, none of the interpreters have ever been trained in this kind of thing.
And they're great.
Oh, they're amazing.
I mean, the talents that these interpreters have, because they're becoming the voice for Sarah or whatever, and you're just going, they're really acting. They're getting emotion into it too, just sitting over there signing and then suddenly speaking. You're just going, wow, what a challenge for them.
And it's just been, having them in the cast. My assistant director is a CODA, which is a hearing child of deaf adults, CODA. And Andrew, it's like every rehearsal, there would be these sessions where you'd see them trying to figure out signs. The play is retro because we have to put it in the Middle 80s because they get excited about a blender. Who gets excited about a blender now?
And food processors.
So then we have to retro the signs, but not enough so that the modern audience loses it. And then there's this whole conversation about when do you sign, when do you not sign, when do you speak, because Andrew is speaking as he feels like it in the play.
And that was your whole rehearsal process of putting this together.
Yeah.
So we are so fortunate to have you come here, and I know that the challenge is going to be just bringing that cast into our theater, mounting it in a few days, putting the set in. So basically we are transferring what you did at NutleyLilTheatre to our Bergen Stages Interhall Lab Theater stage. So coming up so soon, but by June 11th, please look to us talking about it even more on Bergen Stages, but please make a point to come see this production. It's a special production we're going to be bringing in this summer here at Bergen Community College. It's NutleyLilTheatre's production of Children of a Lesser God from June 11th to the 14th in our Interhall Lab Theater. Dixon, thank you so much for being here today. It's been so great. I know we could talk on and on because this is such a great production. And maybe we'll find a time to do a talk back after one of the performances for those that want to hear more information about mounting this production.
That would be great. This has been wonderful. Thank
Great.
you, Jim.
So thank you again for joining us on Bergen Stages Television, and we look forward to you coming and seeing us again. Thank you.